Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is me. It is Active Antics, and I am here with you for my first ever video to talk about my top 10 catcher rankings. I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, like, comment, subscribe, and if you don't, well, do that as well. So without further ado, let's get it rolling. Coming in at number 10, we have Austin Wells, the towering 6'2", 220-pound catcher for the Yankees. The 24-year-old was selected 28th overall in 2020, had a brief stint on the injured list to start 2023, but when he returned in late April, he came ready to swing for the fences. Or at least attempt to, given his struggle to hit for average. But hey, who needs to hit for a high average when you've got power to send baseballs into orbit? Overall, his 2023 minor league season was a bit of a step back from his previous 2 years when he really flashed big potential. Nonetheless, he earned his ticket to the big leagues in September, and he showed some flashes. In just 75 plate appearances, he may not have hit like Babe Ruth, but he did manage to launch 4 home runs. As he gears up for the 2024 season, he's set to be on the strong side of a platoon with fellow teammate Jose Trevino, and he's poised to capitalize on that invitingly short porch in Yankee Stadium's right field. For redraft leagues, he's a solid sleeper and a cost-effective home run source. And for dynasty leagues, Wells remains a valuable asset with the potential to be a year-over-year top 5 catcher. I'm projecting his peak years to be in the 260 batting average, 350 OBP, and 500 slugging range, with upwards of 30 or more home runs. So get ready for the Wells of Fortune, because this catcher is about to bring the thunder to the Bronx. At number 9, we've got former Angels legend and now White Sox catching prospect, Edgar Quero. The Cuban-born switch-hitting international signee in 2021 was picked up in a deal by the White Sox when they sent Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez over to the Halos. Honestly, this was a super impressive get for the White Sox and a pretty poor trade for the Angels. I was surprised at the time the Angels did this, and it doesn't look any better now. Listed at 5'11" and 170 pounds, though you'll see in the video he's looked like he's added weight, Quero regressed in 2023, but a lot of that can be explained by the fact he was playing in AA, a league he's much younger than. His 2022 season, however, cannot be forgotten, and it alone would have put him as a top 5 catching prospect. It's hard to explain exactly what went wrong for Quero last year, aside from the fact that he was hitting more balls on the ground and to the opposite field, perhaps a clear sign that he was overmatched by older talent. After a robust 17 home runs and 54 extra base hits in 2022 as a 19-year-old in A-ball, Quero only mustered 6 home runs and 23 extra base hits in AA in 2023, which is a pretty eye-opening difference. Still, to be 20 years old in AA and post a near 16% walk percentage and a K percentage that came in just under 17% is otherworldly. If he can find that power stroke back in 2024, he's going to vault into the top 5 catching prospects. Speaking of 2024, he'll likely start back in AA, and hopefully with more success, he'll be promoted to AAA to finish out the season. There's a small chance that he reaches the majors if his performance dictates it, but I wouldn't bet on it yet, as 2025 is the likely time frame for his MLB debut. As far as his peak projection years, it's hard to say until I see more power, but I can't discredit the 2022 season, thus I'm putting the line at 270 batting average, 390 OBP, and a 460 slugging percentage with about 20 home runs. No matter how you slice it, whether the power develops like we thought it once was or whether it doesn't, he's got a very bright future ahead as the White Sox everyday starting catcher. At number 8, why stop the Quero party now, as we've got the Venezuelan-born Jeferson Quero, and no, there's no relation to Edgar. Admittedly, I wasn't as high on Jeferson Quero as others were prior to last season, but he really started to win me over in 2023. At just 20 years old and playing well under the average age in AA, Quero put up some solid numbers. No, the 779 OPS isn't going to wow anyone, but he showed solid power numbers and posted above average walk and strikeout numbers. Speaking of the power, there isn't many 20-year-olds who can hit a ball over 110 miles per hour like he has already. I don't know that I believe he has a higher ceiling than those that I've ranked below him, but I certainly feel like he has a higher floor. He just seems like one of those guys that's going to be in the league for like 15, 20 years and consistently produces solid numbers year after year after year, and yet never gets the appreciation and respect that they deserve for being that consistent piece in someone's offense. But who knows? I'm obviously getting way out ahead of the skis here, so he could be a star. We don't know, but that's just kind of like my perception or how I feel about him at this stage. What's really strange about Quero, though, is he has pretty wild reverse splits. So that means that he struggles against the side that he theoretically should do better against. In this case, he doesn't hit left-handed pitching very well at all. But right-handed pitching, he hits phenomenally. In fact, 15 of his 16 home runs came against right-hand pitching. So something weird of note, and we'll see if that kind of works itself out as he goes to the upper minor leagues or not. I'm not certain if he'll start 2024 in AA or AAA, but if he puts up results, there's a slim chance he could debut in 2024 if the right situation presents itself. Regardless, though, he's shaping up to be the Brewers catcher of the future, which is more than likely to start in 2025. But yeah, it'll be a fun one to see how he does this next year and to see if he takes that kind of next step to be an elite prospect, so to speak. But keep your eye on him. At number 7, it's a fastball hunter, and he's a good man at doing it. Of course, I'm talking about Hunter Goodman. This 24-year-old former fourth-rounder out of Memphis has evolved into one of the best minor league sluggers in today's game. Honestly, it feels a bit cheap to even have him in these rankings since he's very loosely considered a catcher anymore. But hey, I already created the rankings, so too damn bad. And also, if you play in a league with lower minimums for positional eligibility, he could get some starts at catcher in a pinch. Say there's an injury or something of the sorts. With that said, he'll get most, if not all of his time in the outfield or DH or even first base. Look, Goodman has swing and miss in his game. That cannot be denied. He hunts fastballs and struggles with the break and stuff, but he's also a certified ball crusher. Over the last 2 minor league seasons, he's amassed 70 home runs and 217 RBIs. He barrels the ball well and barrels it often. He walked at a slightly above average pace in the minors last season, but I'm not really confident that that'll transition to the majors. Expect a low batting average, expect the strikeouts, and most likely a bad OBP. But if he's crushing 30-plus home runs and driving in a lot of runs, you may just be okay with the sacrifice in the other categories. And there isn't many better home parks to play in than that thin mile-high air. He's got the inside track at a starting outfield spot in 2024, and he could be a great sleeper for redrafts and dynasty leagues. As far as a peak projection goes, it's not inconceivable that he could have a year where he batted, 260 or 270, possibly OBP'd around 320 and slugged 35 home runs. I mean, that's doable with him. He's got that type of power. It just remains to be seen how long of a leash he'll actually have, because if he's swinging and missing a lot and, batting 205, they're not going to be that patient with him. They got other guys. But yeah, it'll be fun to see what actually happens with Hunter Goodman in 2024. Coming in at number 6, we've got the future pride of the Las Vegas Athletics, Tyler Soderstrom. The 6'1" lefty has been a big prospect for a while now, and nothing has really changed, at least in my eyes. While you may not be totally wowed by his good but not earth-shattering 825 and 834 OPS in the minors the last 2 years, it's worth noting that he has been playing in leagues far advanced for his age. He was just 21 last year when he posted an 834 OPS with 21 home runs in AAA. Most guys that age are still in low or high A. Soderstrom has very nice pop. That's the best part of his game right now. It's evident that he doesn't walk very well, he strikes out a bit too much, and he hasn't hit for average the last couple of seasons, but we may just be being too critical due to his age and level. It's very possible as he continues to age and mature that he starts to hit for a higher batting average and learns the strike zone a bit more. Be it right or wrong, the A's chose to give Soderstrom his first MLB promotion last season in July, and things went terribly wrong. He struck out in 31% of his plate appearances and only batted 160. But hey, he did hit his first 3 major league home runs. Upon his demotion back to the minors, he continued to play extremely poor in AAA. And while there could have been some initial disappointment or damage to his mental game that attributed to that, I'm not a big believer in the prospects can be ruined argument. He remains a big piece to the A's future and now knows what to expect in the majors. There's no reason to rush him, and thus I believe he starts 2024 back in AAA unless he tears the cover off the ball in spring training. I think a solid projection for his peak years is about a 275 batting average, 335 OBP, and 495 slugging, with about 30 home runs, give or take. It'll be interesting to see early on in 2024 how he bounces back from a terrible end in 2023. At number 5, we have a bona fide Louisville slugger in Dalton Rushing. You may be a bit surprised to see him ranked this high, but remember, these are on-base percentage rankings, and no one has walked the line better than him since Johnny Cash. Seriously though, Rushing has an elite walk percentage, and he'll be the pride of OBP leagues one day in the not-too-distant future. Even if he has a poor batting average, which was the case in 2023, it's not going to matter much with his ability to get on base and hit bombs. Take into account that he batted just .228 last year and still posted a .404 on-base percentage. That's insanely hard to do. Given his track record, I believe there's a lot more there in his ability to hit for average, and so if he's able to get that average up to 260 or 275 plus, his OBP is going to rise even further. In addition to his sky-high walk percentage, Rushing also hit for nice power and had a 51% extra base hit percentage, which is well above average. He should start 2024 in AA and may soon be fast-tracked to AAA if he's posting solid numbers. The Dodgers already have Will Smith under team control through 2025, and after that point, it may be time to turn the reins over to Rushing, if the organization still thinks of him as a catcher. He'll also need to beat out fellow big prospect Diego Cartaya in the organization, who had a pretty poor year last year. With all of the depth, it's possible one of them is traded in the next year or two. A peak projection for Rushing may see his line somewhere in the 265 batting average, 410 or more on base percentage, and a 480 slugging percentage with about 25 to 30 home runs, which is to say he will be one of fantasy baseball's top catchers, especially if he's in the Dodgers lineup one day. Keep your eye on him, he'll be fun to track in 2024. Moving on to number 4, where it's the recently drafted 14th overall pick in 2023, Kyle Teel, holding down the spot. The electric Teel has already had a ridiculous start to his young career, making the Red Sox feel all warm and fuzzy inside about their choice to select him. After a ridiculous final season in Virginia where he batted .407 with an 1130 OPS, the 6'1" lefty picked right up where he left off in the professional ranks. In his first 26 professional games, Teel batted a ridiculous .363 batting average, .483 OBP, and a .493 slugging percentage, with 2 home runs and a ridiculous .88% K-BB percentage. Yes, he walked a robust 18.4% of the time he came to the plate. Power isn't a part of Teel's game, at least not at this time, but he should still develop into a 10 to 15 home run bat. It's his unbelievable plate discipline that makes him the special player he is. Look, I hate the player comp guy. You know, the guy who recklessly or incorrectly compares young players to an all-star or Hall of Famer, but I'd be lying if I said the pedigree doesn't remind me of Joe Mauer a little bit. Damn it, I just became the guy I hate. The Red Sox have developed a nice little system, and Teel is right up there with the rest of them now. I'd expect him to start 2024 back in AA, but if he keeps on his torrid pace, he could certainly reach AAA. And honestly, with the way some of the minor league studs are being fast-tracked these days, I wouldn't be totally shocked if the Red Sox promoted him to the majors at some point in 2024, but that relies on the Red Sox being in contention, and Teel destroying the minors, as well as the Red Sox catching options being subpar, which, let's be honest, kind of seems like a lock based who's on their roster right now. A peak projection for Teel at this time feels like a lock that he'll be a 300 hitter at some point, with over a 400 OBP and a slugging percentage of about 430, maybe 440. We'll see if he's able to tap into some more power, but regardless, he's got a very bright future ahead, and the Red Sox are very lucky to have him. Into the top 3 now, where it's Harry Ford that takes our 3rd spot. Ford is another in our top 10 OBP rankings that walks at an incredible pace. In fact, in 1,127 minor league plate appearances, Ford owns a 17.7% walk percentage, and it was up to 18.3% last season. I was sort of hoping for a bigger power jump last season, but it's still a work in progress. Still, 15 home runs as a 20-year-old in high A is nothing to scoff at. That being said, I still believe there's more coming. The average took a bit of a hit last year, dropping down to 257, but that comes with the territory at times when you're playing in leagues you're younger than, so I'm willing to dismiss it partially, but I need to see that back up a little bit this year. Another cool little wrinkle about Ford is the guy can steal bases. He stole 24 bags last year and 23 the year before that, but I wouldn't read too much into it because stolen bases, especially in the lower minors, don't tend to translate to the majors. 2024 is another big year as he'll likely be getting another level jump up to AA. If he continues to perform, I'd expect a promotion up to AAA later in the year, and the majors should still come knocking by 2025. The peak projection line I'd set for Ford is at about 270, 280, somewhere in that range for his batting average, with a 385 OBP and possibly about 460 on the slugging percentage. So I think he'll hit about 20 to 25 home runs perennially. So yeah, definitely some big things coming here. Keep your eye out for Harry Ford. Built Ford tough. We're moving on to number 2, and my oh, is that Samuel Basallo? If you haven't heard of Basallo yet, well, it's because he completely burst onto the scene last year. Starting the year in A-ball as an 18-year-old, he mashed to the tune of an 887 OPS with 12 home runs in 83 games. Proving that A-ball wasn't much of a challenge for this young buck, the Orioles moved him up to high A, where he actually got better? The guy is an absolute freak. In 27 games and 115 plate appearances, Basallo hit 8 home runs along with a 333 batting average and a 444 on-base percentage, on his way to an 1131 OPS. In fact, just to get him some extra ABs at the end of the high A season, the Orioles sent him up to AA to close out the season, and all he did there was go 7 for 15 in 4 games with 2 more extra base hits. Out of nowhere, he vaulted himself into a monster prospect. He walks at a strong rate and limits his strikeouts below the league average, which is just incredible given his age and level and power hitting ability. My favorite thing about Basallo, if you haven't already noticed from watching these clips, is he has fun playing the game. The big 6'3" Dominican has that swag, that moxie, that whatever you want to call it. He bat flips, he admires his towering home runs. And you'd be hard-pressed to find any clip of him approaching home plate without a big grin on his face. The batted ball data is off the charts too. He's already hitting balls over 110 miles per hour at his young age, and he also has no problem hitting lefties at this time. All this to say, stardom is on his doorstep if he keeps progressing in this manner. I'm curious to see if the Orioles start him in AA or high A in 2024, but regardless, the majority of his plate appearance will likely come at AA, and I'd expect him to get some late season AAA at bats as well. Given all of the insane depth in the Orioles minor league system, you probably won't see Basallo in the majors until mid to late 2025, and it likely won't come at catcher with Adley Rutschman holding down the fort. The good thing for Basallo, though, is he also gets his fair bit of time at first base. If you're in a dynasty league and he isn't already owned somehow, certainly run and don't walk to pick him up. I'm looking forward to see what his 2024 season brings. And that moves us on to number 1, where I'm not sure if this kid even qualifies since I'm not positive he's actually human. Yes, I'm talking about Ethan Salas. The Padres were so sure about this Venezuelan phenom that they said, screw it, we're throwing all of our $5.6 million international signing budget to this 16-year-old kid. And does it ever look like an excellent move? See, naturally you'd think that a 16-year-old would spend at least 1, maybe 2 years in the Dominican Summer League before coming stateside and going through the minor league system carefully, but Salas is built different. He was already showing flashes in spring training, and the Padres somewhat shocked us all when we learned that they would be starting this literal kid in A-ball. In his very first game at age 16, he crushed a double in the opposite field gap, and the hype just took off like a raging fire since that moment. Though he'd celebrate his 17th birthday 2 days after that, it was still mind-blowing to see what he was doing at a level he had no business being a part of. But, like I said, he isn't human. In 48 games, he hit .268 with a .350 OBP and slugged .487 with 9 home runs. He showed a solid ability to walk. The Padres later gave him 9 games each at both high A and AA to extend his season and give him some extra plate appearances, but it completely and understandably didn't go well. Still, what an experience that must have been for him. Not that it matters much for fantasy baseball reasons, but he's elite defensively as well, and thus he'll stick at catcher long term. He'll almost certainly start his 2024 back in high A, and it'll be interesting to see how he fares with an offseason to prepare for the more advanced level. He's one to watch closely to see how he continues to progress, but he's on a short list for players that could be the #1 prospect in baseball by 2025. What a freak. And that wraps up my top 10 fantasy baseball on base percentage rankings. I truly hope that you've enjoyed listening to this and watching this, and I cannot thank you enough for putting in the time. I know it's kind of a long watch or a long listen, but I truly do appreciate it. And please like, comment, and subscribe. If you agreed with something, let me know. If you didn't, let me know as well. I appreciate your time. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.